Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Glad you're
Welcome.
all here. We have a exciting guest tonight, friends of ours or special guests. We have Robin McCray and we have Duke Sullivan from Bigfoot or World Bigfoot Radio. And we're so excited to have them on here and to tell us of their investigations and their stories that they have to share with us. And it's going to be a great time.
I'm ready.
All right.
Bring them
We
on.
will just get to them and bring them on.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Robin. Hi, Duke.
Hi,
Hi.
guys. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Big-
thanks for having us.
Big sky howdy from Montana, everybody.
Yeah, it looks a little bright there, Duke.
Yeah, we're having sunstorms today.
Oh, man.
I am
Yeah.
trying to keep it as quiet as possible for you guys. I live out in the middle of the woods, and for whatever, God knows why reason, there is a large group of people out racing four-wheelers up and down our road, which never
Oh.
happens. And every dog in the township, including all of mine, are screaming bloody murder. So I'm trying really hard to keep it as quiet for you guys as possible.
Oh, we appreciate it. But, our last, or not last, but one of our broadcasts not too long ago, our dog that's usually sleeping decided to do some tap dancing on the floor above us.
And start barking.
I
just
just went
never
out
know.
while you were doing the intro. I'm like running around my bedroom with a fly swatter going, Mommy's going to tan your butt.
Wow.
Well, I'm so glad you guys came on and we can get into some stories or investigations. Unless you want to go ahead and one of you, or maybe Robin, you can start first and tell us what you've been up to and going on with you here lately.
Actually, it's been mass chaos. It's not really an investigation. We just got done doing the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference with Duke,
Yeah.
Blaine Tyler, Stephen Hill, William Lunsford. We had some great people. Oh my gosh, Keith Crabtree. We loved it. We had so much fun. And so that was a massive success. It went past our expectations, got a lot of really positive comments from people and feedback. And so I was been working on that. I'm working with Melba Ketchum on the new Cryptid Genome Project,
Cool.
which
Oh,
is
yeah.
that's going to be awesome because we will do some of the Sasquatch DNA, but this is more primarily for unknown or for other cryptids such as dogmen. I know she'd like to get into the mermaids, the giants, and cat people, anything out there that's a cryptid that hasn't been tested yet. But if we have enough funding available and things are going well, we will still go ahead and do some of the Sasquatch ones.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
So
I got a
Duke, you
peanut
were at the
butter
same
jar
conference?
I got a peanut butter jar with Sasquatch spit in it.
There you go.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah,
Oh,
actually, I'm
God.
putting out all the, no, I shouldn't say all, but many of the presentations that happened there were recorded by Ashton, the one-man Viking Death Squad, who was our cinematographer this year. And I've been slowly reworking the sound on all of them and getting ready to put them out right after the show here tonight. The first one comes out, and that's got two people that have never spoken at a conference before. In the lower 48, I should say, in Blaine's case, Blaine Tyler has never spoken at a conference in the lower
Yep.
48. And Keith Crabtree, who's never spoken at a conference, period, the guy that played the Boggy Creek Monster in The Legend of Boggy Creek. That was his first time on stage talking about that kind of stuff. So that's what's coming up tonight. And then I've got Stephen and William tomorrow night after you guys are on Tom Cardo's show. And later on this week, I'll have Robin's presentation and my presentation out.
Great.
Wow, that's a whole fun
Yeah.
packed night of everything.
Yeah.
Two
And-
nights in a row, kicking it off right here, right now, on Midwest
Yeah.
Night Watchers.
Yeah, and he's just coming off 3 weeks of Melba Ketchum. So
Yeah.
that was her
Oh,
first
yeah.
interview.
Those were amazing.
Yeah. And then she also did Dave Scott's show, and now she's getting prepped and ready for one that will have the Arison Project with Randy Bryson Adrian Erickson and her. It's the first time they've been together since the last project. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So-
nice and be able to get out, into a community that will accept, whatever she has to say.
Yeah.
Because I know
This
you're.
time around, the response has been completely different than before. The support that we've been able to get from people, other than a few that we kind of anticipated were going to give us a hard time, has been extraordinary. And we are
Good.
so grateful. And they've just been very, very generous, very kind, very supportive. So I think we'll do a lot better with the public this time, just because we had support last time because there were people behind us, but not anywhere near like what we have now.
Right.
And that was quite apparent on my show too, where I've got over 20,000 subs. 85% of them are either Bigfoot experiencers or know it's real. So that's Melba's army.
Yeah.
So having her on my show was
Yeah.
now Melba's army is mobilized and the word's going around, hey, Melba was on a show. Oh my God, we need to go take care of all the troublemakers and preemptively curb stomp them. Let's get on it.
Yeah. The whole truth never made it out last time because
Right.
the hate was so severe. You get to the point where when you can't even speak to get the truth out because it's shoved down your throat before it actually comes out,
Mhm.
and you try and you get nowhere. You're just like, forget it. Why bother? And, we never got to talk about the government interference. We never got to talk about the problems with the other people. Or what actually went on with the Nature, Nature magazine. None of that actually got to come out. And
Oh.
now we're looking at 10 years later, people are realizing that, hey, look what these things actually are a type of human. They may not be our type, but they are a type. And more people on top of more people are experiencing what she was already talking about. And they're like, you know what, maybe she wasn't as crazy as everybody kept saying she was.
Yeah.
We knew she was right. But a lot of people, when you have that large amount of haters knocking it down, and some of these people were considered top people in this research field, and they're attacking and all their little followers are believing them instead of looking at what the truth was, what she could have presented to them given the opportunity, which she did not have. And so it's a little bit different this time around. Things have shifted.
Good.
Yeah,
Yep.
it seems like once we got out of 2020, when they forced everybody to stay home and all these communities and people came together, and we started making all these channels and, inviting everybody on. I think the attitude has changed and there's a bigger following now for everyone.
I think there is. I mean, from what we're picking up on our end.
Well, I know before the Nebraska conference, you were talking about working on your book and hoping to finish it. So
Yeah,
did
here's the
you?
thing.
Did
For
you finish it?
9 years now, every time I do anything, everybody says, do you have a book? Do you have a book? And I'm like, nobody needs one more book out there. They just don't. And so I haven't done it. And then not this past year in Nebraska, but the last 2 years prior to that, every time I went, the first thing I was asked by everybody that would come up to talk to me is, where's your book? Where's your book? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it just because I'm going to do it. And I got about halfway done with it. And at that same time is when Melba came out with the new study. And this year I was made assistant manager for the Nebraska Bigfoot Museum as well as the conference. So I had double duties there. On top of, as everybody knows, I work with a lot of people, and I'm generally working with 4 or 5 individuals a day. And it was like everything on top of everything. And I'm writing it between the 8 hours of 3 and 5 in the morning.
Mm.
And after a while, exhaustion finally kicked in. And so it's half done. Once I get done with all the paperwork after the conference stuff, then I probably will go back to it. It got halfway done, and there was only so much I could give, and I couldn't give anymore.
Now, during our first midnight show that we had, we were just messing around, decided to get on, and Duke at the very end popped in, and we were having all kinds of fun talking about Bigfoot and everything. And however it came up, we said, Robin ought to write a book about the life that they live dealing with us stupid humans through their voice,
through their eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. They have a lot of complaints about us.
Well,
I don't know.
we all
I don't know if you
complain
can
about each
make it
other,
out that
yeah,
clearly.
yeah.
Check out the T-shirt behind me. As soon as I move my hat, can you see it?
What's it say?
What does it say?
I
I
can't
can't
see
see it.
it. You'll have to
Yeah.
read it because I can't see it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to read it.
Nope, it's
I-
going to be a surprise. You guys will go back and look at it later to find out what it is.
All
Yeah,
right.
we have, there are a lot of us. I can't say it as a group of like all people, but I mean, there are obviously a lot of our what they call hairless humans that are kind to them, but our people try to kill what they don't understand, and we pretty much made their lives misery, and then they're watching us destroy the planet that they live in.
Yeah.
So they have a
Well,
lot of complaints.
Yeah, I'm assuming, and I consider them the indigenous people, that's been on this planet way before us, or I'm assuming way before us. And and here we are trotting all over their home ground, and destroying their habitat in a lot of places.
Yeah, I think they can teach us a lot of ways to reconnect with nature. They really can. I think when Melba did the DNA study, I think it was like either 13 or 15,000 years was how long they had been there from the DNA that she had tested.
Wow.
So they've been here quite a while.
That's when they hybridize. The original strain, we don't know how far back that goes. What we're
Yeah.
currently calling Sasquatch are hybrids between humans and the original. We don't know how far back that goes or what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes sense. Hmm.
So, do you get any feedback from them, Robin or Duke? How do you feel about when you go out and investigating or go out in their areas? I mean, I know they probably accept you guys now, but I mean, at first, could you feel a different response, or like they were kind of standoffish, or?
Duke, you go first.
You mean just like here in Montana or in all the places I've lived?
No,
or-
just your local stomping grounds, because I'm assuming you go out all the time right around you.
Well, I go out as much as I'm capable of getting out in the field. It depends on where you're at. Like up at the ghost town of Coloma, which is already known to be haunted. People don't camp there. So when we started camping up there, that was, there's actual ghost activity up there. We had paranormal portal guys up there 2 years in a row that are actually expert ghost hunters, and they were blown away by how much, paranormal activity was going on. And there's a portal up there. It's stationary, permanent. And so weird things appear and then disappear again. And you don't want to necessarily be too close to it. And the other thing is there are Sasquatch up there, and the one group that lives there, they think it's hilarious that humans are scared of it. And they take full advantage.
They love
So,
Duke up there.
If you're up there and you think it's a ghost town and you're already edgy, and they can read your surface intentions, like, oh, this human thinks it's a ghost town and they're spooked. They'll just wait until a little bit after dark, and then they'll, boo, or they'll make some noise or something, scare the living bejeebers out of you. And we've had that now in the last couple of years. It's happened twice where we were up there with our group camping, and there's nothing causing us any trouble, but somebody else that's parked, camped somewhere else in the ghost town, all of a sudden you'll hear them, like rev up the engine and peel out at 4:00 in the morning. And you're like, what are they, late for Perkins pancakes or something? It's a little bit early here, guys, So yeah, clearly something scared them out. And then the one time we were up there with Kevin, actually had Robin ask the local Sasquatch way after the fact, what exactly happened with the guys in the valley over there that got scared out at 4:00 in the morning. And yeah, it was one of the Sasquatch that did it because they had bad intentions, according to them. So they just chased them out at 4:00 in the morning. Now, the more hilarious part of this is that the night before, right as it was starting to get dark, we had been up on the hill above where that little canyon is, where that camper was. And there's one lone abandoned shack up there, not built at the same time as the ghost town, like somebody's hunting shack or something. But when we did the paranormal stuff up there, that thing was even way hotter than the actual ghost town was. So some really bad stuff happened there. So we're up there on that ridge line right above it, just as it's getting dark, and a couple of us split away and went through the woods back toward the camp. And Michael and Creature were up there. That's Travis' nickname. And he's right in between where this little teeny house is. There's the hillside. There's about like 5 feet where it's kind of been cut out to fit the thing in there. So there's a little extra space. So he's around the edge of the house from that, and he's looking down the hill. And what he's seeing down below him is that it's all trees, 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 and then there's a little opening, and he can faintly see the glow from this camper that's down there. It was a VW bug camper. Meanwhile, it's just getting dark enough that he can still make out what's going on in the woods. He can see this huge shadow pop up, look at the camper, and go back down again. Then it pops up, looks at the camper, goes back down again. And he turns around and he goes, "Hey, Mike, are you seeing this?" Mike ain't there. He already left. So at that point, Travis decided he was going to leave too if he could find his way back to camp with nobody else there to point the way, which he's a pretty good woodsman, so he did too. But it was that next morning at 4 o'clock in the morning when they peeled out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
There's your friend Danielle saying hi.
Hey, Danielle.
Hi, Danielle.
Thanks for
Danielle.
stopping by. Well, I'll be over on your show pestering you later.
That's funny.
Danielle's recording a show with me this week, which will be out in sometime in the next month or so on Romanian werewolves.
Oh, cool.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently somebody leaked it to Sean Hannity because he's doing some little segment on werewolves now. So it's like, thanks a lot for leaking it to Hannity. So he could steal the idea and do it first. Like, what the hell are you doing? He's trying to be the next Tucker Carlson and do edgy, conspiracy-oriented material. So, are werewolves real? Find out on Sean Hannity. What?
Everybody's jumping on board.
Yeah, they're all trying to be like Tucker Carlson, but it's not going to work.
So, do you have any dogman activity in your research area in Montana?
Yes, I haven't seen them with my naked eye, but I've got them on video quite a bit. And I got another clip I got to send to Robin where I was examining moose tracks and kind of like not looking up with the camera, filming down with it and looking down at the same time. And as the camera swept past the edge of this pine tree, it looks like there's a dogman and a Bigfoot lying underneath it watching me, and they're like 10 feet away. So this is pretty creepy.
Well, when you were talking about the ghost town, the dogmen were going. Yeah, they're over at the ghost town now.
Oh,
They want their cinnamon toast crunch again.
Probably no, but there's a whole pack of them over at the ghost town.
Okay.
So that's the kind of cereal you buy, right?
Somebody's taken it in my Sasquatch area. It doesn't seem like they like it, but somebody else over there sure did.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Cinnamon
he's
toast
the bacon
crunch.
guy.
Yeah, they like bacon.
Hey,
Bacon and
Bacon.
peanut butter.
For 'em. They don't get it raw. He cooks it for them.
Yep. Yeah, because that's what activates his magic yumminess in bacon. Raw bacon, blech. But when it's cooked, ooh, yummy.
Wow.
that's awesome.
He's got a good relationship with him up there. It's based on
So they-
the food, but
So how
they like
often you gotta bring them bacon? They get mad and start letting you know, hey, it's time for bacon, or what?
No, I got my intermediary messenger, Robin, to take care of that stuff.
they literally give him a list. Of
Yeah,
what
they give me a
want.
shopping list of what I'm supposed to bring with that they want, and it's usually pretty much a lot of the same stuff. But
Yeah.
they heard
So,
pears
yeah.
were good from someone, so I had to bring them
Yeah,
some
they're
pears.
clamoring for pears right now. So
See, there you go.
They're not too picky on which store you go to. It's just the items, huh?
yep. Yeah, there's one up there that likes the pears. I don't think the rest of them likes them as well, but he's in my head going pears, pears, pears. Like,
Yeah, I'll make
showing
sure I
me
bring
pictures
some
of
with.
them in case I didn't know what the word pear meant.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, since we talked to you about the clan that's by us, we put peanut butter out on a post that the farmer put to mark our property, and somebody ate it. And I don't know if it was deer or them or what, but here the other night, they're plowing the field and the stupid farmer knocked down our pole. So now we're going to have to find another place to mount our peanut butter.
He got too close and the poles were just leaning, and I went, well, there goes our peanut butter post.
Years ago, we put like a huge jar, like the biggest size jar you could get a peanut butter out, and it was sealed.
Oh.
Had the jar lid on it and everything. Put it outside in the yard, and the next day it was gone. And so like 2 or 3 weeks went by, and we didn't know whatever happened to the peanut butter jar. We finally found it down the road. It had been unscrewed, and the seal had been broken, and 90% of the jar was empty, and there's finger swipes all on the inside of it, so you could see the fingers.
I guess that's what we'll have to try. We'll just put a fresh jar out there and not even open it up.
They can undo a jar without any problem. They
That's
did that
amazing.
to Igor. He put chicken legs in it, and he put it out where I used to put the food out at. And he decided he was going to watch them and study them all night long. So he got in our truck, and he sat in the truck, and he sat there all night long staring at this area where the food was at. He was going to catch them. About 5 o'clock in the morning, he decided he needed to use the restroom, and he wanted a cup of coffee. So he gets out of the truck. He comes in the house. He goes to the bathroom, gets a cup of coffee, comes back out, and the jar that nobody had touched all night long had been taken from the food place, opened up, chicken was out of it, and the jar was with the lid back on it on top of the truck. They waited until he left.
They're more patient than we are. They're used to that.
Wow.
They're such
Long periods of just sitting there, not moving, glaring at something.
Yeah, but if they want to say something or if they want you to do something, it's worse than a toddler. It has to be right then. Like literally, if they're talking to you and you're not responding to them, they go postal. And like they'll blow your whole mind up. It's awful. They did that to me one time. I was sitting outside with a friend, and she was having some problems. So I was listening to her, and I could hear him. And one was standing in the bushes behind me, and I could hear him in my head calling me and calling me and calling me. And I'm like, just give me a minute. Give me a minute. Pretty soon, just yell at the top of his lungs, like it billowed everywhere. Robin! And they don't ever call me that. They call me by a tribal name, or they call me Mom, because I've heard my kids call me Mom forever and a day. So a lot of them just thought that was my actual human name. Yeah, but it was funny. They have no patience. Now there's one here. A very dear friend of mine sent me. It attaches to my phone, and it's a thermal camera. Comes on this big wand, tremendous. Oh my God, it's a riot. But since I got it, we've had nothing but bad weather at night. And when I have gone out, it hasn't been too much going on. So the other night I went into my bathroom, and I look out the window, and there's one standing like probably 6 feet off the bathroom window.
Wow.
So I go running back in the bedroom, and I'm grabbing this thermal thing, and I'm hooking up my phone to it. By the time I got outside, he was walking away. He's like gone. I was like, God, because you can take a picture with it. But the thing about the thermal, and I didn't know this till about a year ago, they can block the thermal reading. They absolutely, yeah, they can absolutely block it. Like if you catch them and they don't really know you're out there or whatever, you got a really good shot of picking them up on thermal. But they do what they call, I call it, for lack of a better term, a shield. And it just, they raise that energy and vibration. They don't cloak, but they put like this wall around them. And you know, thermals, I thought would get it anyway. And that was proven wrong. About a year ago, I was standing like 10 foot from one, and I was looking at him with night vision goggles, and he was sitting there. Like I'm watching him breathe in and out. I'm watching his eyes blink, and every now and then he'd turn his head like this, and he was just sitting there like he didn't want to move because then he knew I'd see him. But I had night vision goggles, and I was watching him, but it wasn't a thermal. So a girl that was there with me, I said to her, I said, bring the thermal over here so you can see him on the thermal. And she's standing right next to me looking at him, and it's not picking it up.
Wow.
And I said, I know what they look like. I interact all the time. Like I'm watching him breathe in and out. I'm watching the eyelashes blink. I'm seeing 100% of him. I know he's there. And she's like, nothing's turning around, working on the thermal. But when she turned around, because there was one coming up the other side, that picked up right away. So I finally just said, you know, why isn't it? And they said, because we just push the energy out around us. It blocks it.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Wow.
Shit. For lack of a better word.
Now, every live show we've done so far, almost every live show, at least the nighttime ones, we've been having little glitches in this pistol poster, and we're trying to figure out what these anomalies are. And
Over the wall.
every once in a while, somebody will say, "Well, I saw a feather float out of it," but then Jane's thinking maybe the glitches might be the one of the pranksters of the clan showing up
Oh
and
yeah.
cloaking themselves.
Yeah, I did a show the other night, and we were on it, and it did pretty good, except every now and then, only mine and Pat's would glitch. Nobody else's.
Hmm.
And finally, at the end of it, and I knew they were outside because I could hear them tapping on the window. And at the end of it, Pat's kicked off. He bumped him off, and he came back on, and he was still on. I couldn't get on to save my soul.
Yeah.
But I knew
Wow.
they were right outside the window because they were tapping on it.
Oh man.
Yeah,
So-
they're a trip.
So they come visit you inside your place, Duke, or do you know, or
No, I don't think so. I'm right in the heart of town here, and probably not worth visiting anyway. They don't need to come visit me. They just send me their grocery order when I'm getting ready to come up and visit them.
He's kind of like Amazon.
Yeah. Munchy
Oh,
delivery
man.
truck. Well, it is fun camping in places where, again, this thing comes up all the time with some people are going like, oh, Bigfoot are so savage and hostile. And look at all these stories. They chase people out of the woods and stuff. Yeah. Some of those stories happen in the same place I camp, where it's the same group. And they're not savage and hostile to me, but for some reason they sure didn't like that guy. They chased him out.
Well, in a perfect example, are there some bad ones? 100% yes. We have to be realistic. If you look at anything, I don't care if it's your dog, your cat, a goldfish, a kangaroo, there's good and bad in absolutely everything. And God knows with our type of people, there's good and bad in it.
Right.
I agree.
When I was 5 years old, back then, when they first invented the wheel, I was walking home from school, and we had this one area that was a whole huge wooded area. And I used to love to go back there because I knew that the Bigfoots were back there. And I was like 4 or 5 years. I was 5. I was in kindergarten. But back then it was safe to walk that short distance back to your house. It's not like it is right now. If I had little kids right now, they'd never go to school. They'd be homeschooled. They wouldn't be outside. There's too many crazies out there. But anyway, so I'm walking back home, and a friend of mine was with me, and she went to her house, and I went into that woods, and I walked in there, and there was a man back there. And instead of seeing the forest people, I saw him, and he chased me. He went after me, and they actually put a stop to that, but he went after me. And I thought, people don't realize I'm much more terrified of our people than I ever will be the Sasquatch. I actually will. But the truth is that they love deeper and they hate deeper. All their emotions are at a much deeper range than ours. So whatever emotion it is, it's going to be 10 times harder. And the bad ones are lethal, but the good ones are the most pure love you'll ever experience in your entire life. And then you have some that just try to get along. They could care less either way. So yeah, there absolutely is some bad ones. But then again, I always tell everybody, okay, and how many bad people are there in our world?
right?
Larger percentage in what they have in their world. And I think the majority of them are basically true neutral. They're sort of indifferent. Their job is to avoid us. They don't want to interact with us. There's a few of them that are curious to the point where they do want to have some limited interaction. And then there's the ones that just despise humans and don't go anywhere near them because they will just squish you.
Yeah. And a lot of the ones that hate humans, they do whatever they can to not be around us. They go way up in the mountains, but what do? We go after them.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
the other
we
point.
fight back.
Yeah. The other point I wanted to make is because, if they don't like being around us that much, they will try and be out in the middle of nowhere, further away from us.
Yep.
But then if you go and crowd them there, then you're really asking for it. And I think that's why there's a lot of that sort of behavior up in places like Alaska and the Yukon. They don't want to have humans around them, and when they have to put up with them, they don't react very well to it. No, there's some of them live right alongside civilization. They're just all fine with it. They're used to it. They know what to expect from humans. They know how to avoid us.
Huh.
Wow. So what's with Sasquatch and marbles?
To them, it's just like a type of crystal.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's a stone. They're into stones, they're into crystals and various things. And for them, a marble, that's all that is.
And they like marbles.
They seem to. But I always tell people, if you're going to do the marbles, and this is just a mom thing, you know, try to get the big boulder ones that aren't too tiny because the kids, you don't want to put them in their mouth. They are still kids.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, they love marbles. They do.
Is that their favorite thing that you guys like to use, or is there something really specific that your people or your clan likes?
They're all different. I mean, you know, some of them like the marbles, some of them. Dave Scott has a group that he interacts with, and he put a little tiny blue car up there. It was a Matchbox car, a little blue car. They love that bloody thing. You know, I mean, it just depends. They're all individuals, just like we are. It's like we all have different tastes and likes and dislikes.
Well, Duke, didn't you give them Christmas presents this last year?
Oh yeah, I left stuffed toys for the kids that looked much like regular woodland animals. There was kind of a Chester cheetah looking thing, but there was a couple of My Little Pony looking things, and one of them was a regular brown horse, and another one was like a rainbow unicorn.
Yeah, that
and
little girl.
A couple of raccoons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if the ones that outright got to somehow get away with taking ones that they wanted and bringing them with them. Outside of those ones, I don't know if any of them have been moved or what happened to them or anything. I haven't been back there.
Or if they made them put them back. I know that the one little boy took the raccoon one, remember, because he was hiding it under a rock so his parents wouldn't know he took it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we'll see if it's back where it was supposed to be.
Isn't that the one that wanted the one that actually asked originally?
Yeah. He wanted the raccoon one. And then the little girl wanted the rainbow unicorn one.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
That's amazing.
Yeah, if they're allowed to keep it. They've taken stuff for me and it'll disappear for days. And then when it comes back, it's exactly where I left it. Like you would never know, except for the fact that I have photos where it's missing.
So do the parents just not want them to have something from humans or
Some
what?
of them. Some of them. I mean, the group I had in Michigan, they walked around uncloaked around the yard 24 hours a day. It didn't matter if it was right in broad daylight or nighttime. I mean, they were, you know, just really super interactive. And my daughter would put toys out for them all the time, and they would take the toys and then they'd bring them back later whenever they were done with them. The ones here in South Carolina are a little bit different, where they are great for saying we want, but then you get them for them and you put them out there and the parents are going, no, you won't, no, you won't, no, you won't. So, but then they'll get hold of me and say, well, I need, you know, turmeric or I need ginger. Okay, fine. So I get it for them and then they don't take it. And I'm like, well, you wanted it. Well, we don't know what that is that it's in. And I'm like, it's a jar. The same jar that you swipe everything else out of. Right. And, you know, sometimes they take it, sometimes they don't, but they're always grateful every time they do, even if they don't take it with them. And then each clan has, you know, what they are allowed to do within that clan, whether that's a clan that will allow the gift exchange. You know, they like to barter. They used to barter with Native Americans. So, you know, generally if you're giving them a gift, they leave something.
Yeah, I've heard they like tobacco leaves. Growing tobacco in your garden, and they like the tobacco, and people like gifting them tobacco.
Yeah, I have a friend in Texas, and they ask for tobacco there.
Now,
it probably depends on what each group knows about.
Or?
Yeah, it is. It's like they're all individuals. You know, they're not going to have the same likes and dislikes, and it's just all individualized.
So what were you saying, Duke?
It depends on what area they're in and what they've been exposed to. If they know tobacco exists, they may want it. Like the ones up here didn't know there was such a thing as bacon until I foolishly let them know of its existence.
Now they're addicted to bacon.
I like how you became the cryptic DoorDash. That's kind of cool.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. They're gonna make damn sure that the guy that brings them bacon doesn't get hurt while he's up there.
They ran off a bear because they didn't want him getting hurt. They said the bear had something wrong with it. It wasn't right in its head, so it was up by Duke and they ran it out.
Wow.
Yeah,
hey,
when I was up there
at DoorDash man.
When I was up there at Keith Crabtree, the Boggy Creek monster himself, came up last fall and went camping with me for a couple days. And first night that we were up there, we got there right before dark, kind of set up camp, and Keith plopped down on a stump and started looking across the river, and I was on another camp chair kind of facing toward him. And he could see one on the opposite side of the river. And he's like, Duke, is there a big shadow over there? And I'm like, I haven't got the opposite side of the river memorized. I don't know. And I got up, looked, and I go, well, it could be a shadow there. I don't know. Keep an eye on it. See if it's. Make sure you know where you're sitting and where you're looking, so in the morning you can check and see if there's a shadow over there. Okay. And about 3-4 more times while this is going on, about 45 minutes, close to an hour almost, he'd go, Duke, I swear that thing just moved again. And I'd be like, well, maybe it's a Sasquatch. They live over there on that side of the river, you know.
Wow.
Well, sure, of course, first thing in the morning, he checked again. It wasn't there. And it was never there again. But that night, he had one of them come into camp and tickle his feet. And the next night, somebody else that had come in late in that day and went further down the valley about 2-3 miles got literally chased out about a half an hour before sunup. They bailed, left their camper there and everything, and peeled out in their truck and came back about an hour, hour and a half after sunup with 2 carloads of friends following them, hooked the trailer up and everything, and went right back out again. And you could hear those guys screaming at him from 2 or 3 miles away. They were not. So then I asked Robin about that, and she said, well, yeah, he had bad intentions. They chased him out. But the funnier part was the shadow across the river from us the first night we were camping there is the Sasquatch that Robin contacted to make sure we got there safely, because there's no phone service up there. You're not getting a signal. You're in the bowl at the top of a mountain range. Forget it. You know, you got 1,500 feet of granite on every side of you. You're not getting a signal. So Robin gets a hold of them and goes, did Duke make it there yet? Yeah. He has someone with him. Who's that? I don't know. What's he doing? Staring at me. What are you doing? Staring at him. Okay, carry on. And that was the whole message there. So,
Oh man.
Who was the one that had the gun that they were so mad about?
oh, that
You
must have
called-
been over at Coloma.
Yeah.
That was Mike had just showed up, and he had a gun in the vehicle that he wasn't planning on taking out, but they were still pissed about that. And I was on the phone with her going, all right, which one of you goofballs is packing? And Mike's like, I haven't got anything on me. And Ashton literally pulls his shirt up and goes, see, I don't have my gun on.
Well, they were mad because I was talking to them and they kept saying, he has one that isn't true. He has one that isn't true. And I said, isn't true what? And they said, he has something that can harm us. And so I said to Duke, I said, one of the guys has a gun. And Duke's like, no, I don't think they do. And I said, well, I'm telling you, according to them, they do. And that's when he hollered at him and said, okay, you guys.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And then after they heard me yell at them, because, yeah, they were just on the ridge, like less than 100 yards from us. They could hear me yelling at them while Robin's talking to me on the phone, and their mind speaking to Robin. So this was kind of a triple header conversation going on here. So they literally watched me yell at them.
And then
That's
they're like,
funny.
yeah, he is our friend. And I'm like, yeah, he is your friend. He brings bacon and removes weapons. So he's your friend.
Yeah.
DoorDash Duke.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so funny.
Well,
Yeah,
and
someday they
a
will
lot of-
call me the Baconator.
the bacon. And a lot of people that I work with, like, they go in the woods and they actually have to carry a weapon because there's either feral hogs or you've got cougars or you've got bears or something. Obviously, you have to have something to protect yourself. And
Right.
I tell them the same thing every time, and it seems to be helpful, is when you go out there, they're going to know you have that gun. Okay? They're already going to know it, whether you tell them or not. But if you tell them when you go in there, say, I come in peace, I don't come to harm you, I have this weapon with me, but it's not for you. And then be specific. It's in case of a cougar, it's in case of a bear, it's in case of a rattlesnake, whatever. But when you have it concealed, or even if you're carrying it, and they pick up on that you have it and you don't tell them, it makes you seem less trustworthy to them, which I know it makes no sense, but in their world, it does make sense. So
Right.
if you
It makes
verbalize,
sense.
whether you think it in your mind, because even if you can't hear mind speak, they can hear it. So it's not necessarily a two-way thing. They can hear your thoughts anyway. So whether you think about it in your head or you verbalize it outward, if you are upfront with them, then to them, you're being more honest than if they had to pick it up off you themselves.
If you do both, it's best, because then your
Mhm.
internal thoughts of what you're going to do matches with your verbal component, and they're like, okay, I was probably not lying. He's planning on doing this, and he's saying he's going to do this. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And they can always tell when you lie. So.
See, and that's one of the problems that they have with us, because they don't lie. Look, if you can read somebody's minds, how the hell are they going to lie to you? You can tell they're lying instantly. You can read their mind. So they can't comprehend lying. They don't generally lie. If they figured out lying, it's because they were watching humans and they figured out we can do it.
Yeah, there's been a few that have come and said, oh, I'm such and such. And I'm like, energy signatures don't lie. Everybody has one. Everybody's is different. And I've had some that have come to me and said, oh, I'm such and such. And I'm like, no, you're not. Yes, I am. Well, yes, I am. And I'm like, oh, no, you're not. You know, and eventually after you play this game and this circle talk for a while, they'll cough up and say, okay, well, I'm actually, and I'm like, okay, then. You know, you lied to me. I'm not talking to you anymore.
Christy has one that shows up every so often that likes to pretend to be one of the other ones. And she's not 100% sure, but she's usually can guess it, like, hey, that's not so-and-so. Yeah. And he's literally gotten in trouble for doing that to her now. He got severely buffeted at one point for doing that.
Now I was wondering, do they migrate, or, you know, like
No.
when I last talked to you, we had the family here, but I didn't know if they were still here, you know, even through the winter and through the spring.
No,
now.
they don't migrate. No, you have some that, I mean, just like with our people, you know, we have some people that are like, you're retired or whatever, and you're like, I'm not sitting in the snow all winter long. I'll go down to Florida for a little bit. Occasionally you'll get that. They don't migrate. What they do, they have to follow the herds for food, whether it's deer, elk, whatever. They will have hunters from their clan that are specifically their job in that clan is to hunt. They will go and get food and bring it back, but they don't uproot the kids, the families, everything, you know, how they have their homestead structure, you know, whether it's a nest or a cave or whatever. They're not going to give all that up. So the hunters will go and they'll follow the herd, the deer or the elk or whatever wild game that they're hunting, but they don't necessarily migrate. No, I have one that, you know, he was from Michigan, so he's used to the cold, and his mate was actually from Texas, but she was born in Florida. She hated it in Michigan. So she would, in the wintertime, she'd go visit her mom for a few months, then she'd come back. But that's not migration. That's just going where the weather's better. For the most part, they'll just lay low through the cold or the heat or whatever. You know, they don't all just abandon it. But people think because they go quiet for a few months that, oh, they've left the area. They really don't. They have lives. They have things that they do. I had my core group, they were gone for 8 months. And you want to talk about somebody losing their mind, because you get used to the feel of that energy from them. And then when it's pulled away, you literally go through withdrawals. And I interacted with them daily. And there was still a few of them there, but most of them were gone. And they were back 8 months later. And I said, where were you? Well, we went for training. And they would go and explain what they were training to do and whatever. But they have lives. You know, it's just like us. We've got things that we have to do and places we go and people we see, and they do the same thing.
Synopsis: vacation rather than migration.
There you go.
And the other thing to think about if you're talking about migration, you know, you're talking like a north-south migration. The animals go north in the summer and then they come south again in the winter. If that was actually happening, what would all those really huge Sasquatch up in the Yukon and Alaska and whatnot be doing down here in the winter? Do you think there'd be any livestock left? Most of the farmers would have been eaten too.
Oh, yeah.
And how about them moving across country like that? You know, still a simple, short quandary on the subject will yield the result that it's not going on.
The other thing, too, is they start stocking up food for wintertime long before winter. Okay, a perfect example. I went years ago. I went with Igor and 2 other researchers, and we went to an area in Michigan that I had never been to before. It was on the far side of the state. And their rangers for that park had found a cave. Inside that cave were 14 deer stacked up.
Ooh, wow.
They had been, they had been gutted, and they were all stacked up in a pile in a cave. Gigantic footprints all around. Go figure.
Another report from northern Minnesota on the Jack Anderson track line that was filmed, 3 miles long, longest documented. These guys were out with 2 snowmobiles, and each of the sleds had a little holster on it that they were dragging their chainsaws around with. And they were making a new trail. So every time they'd come across a fallen tree or something, they'd cut it out of the way, continue the trail. Well, they had already done like over a dozen cuts, and they got to this little clearing, and here's this set of tracks going across it. And there's like 2 feet of snow, and these feet aren't dragging in between the potholes that it's leaving. So they get really curious. They get out and go, what the hell left these tracks? And they get up close, and they can see this, like they look like giant human tracks. Mm-hmm. So you could see the video of these guys like literally plowing through the snow. They're making a pit with their legs in order to get through the snow. And right next to them was the tracks or whatever this was. It just stepped right over it. So they followed it for about 2.5 miles, and it was doing a big circle, like it was doing an outer perimeter sweep of an area to see if anybody had been in it. And then it went back into the same swamp that it seemed to originally come out of. So they came back a couple of weeks later to finish following the track line and see if they could find out where it went to. And it appeared to go into this, right next to a hill, there's like this little box canyon. And it connected up with a trail of a whole bunch of animal tracks, deer tracks and whatnot, going into this same little canyon. And when he started going in and he got to the end of it, he realized none of the tracks came out again.
Oh,
it was about 30 feet straight up was the top of this little cliff, this box canyon area. So being Mr. Adventurer, he climbed up there. I wouldn't have thought that would be a good idea, especially since it didn't have anybody with them. Got up on top, and up on top of it, there was a carcass of a young dead moose and 6 deer carcasses. That they had been using this as a trap. When they walked in, they just dropped down on them, grab them, kill them, haul them up on top, throw them up there. Nice and cold, refrigerated, northern Minnesota.
Yeah, they used to go and they would catch fish. And when I was in Michigan, a large part of my property was actually sand. We had a lot of lakes around that area, and we had a lot of sand there. And they would go catch fish from the lake, bring them to my property, and they would bury them in the sand. And you would see all these mounds all over the place. And I'm like, gosh, what is that? You know, it's not an ant mound because there's no ants on it. And you would go down and like dig, push the sand away, and there was a dead fish under there, completely whole, just a fish in there. And I had no water sources on my property. So they were bringing them in, and they would bury them in the sand, and I don't preserve them, I guess, because that's what they did. Wow. And you would go back later on, and then you would see these mounds had been opened up and the fish was gone.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I would have never thought of that.
Another person discovered in a cave that there had been a whole series of holes about 3 to 4 inches wide poked into the walls of the cave all over the place. And the only reason they discovered it is because the material that had been packed onto it, which looked the same color as the cave, had fallen out of a couple of them. So they went, well, what's making these holes and what's in them? Well, they looked in the hole, and inside the hole there was like basically a freeze-dried mouse wrapped in a leaf. Mm-hmm. So they got curious and started going through and finding more of these and poking the ends open. Same thing, every one of them. Something was taking a dead mouse wrapped in a leaf, putting it in this hole, and then plugging it again.
Wow.
Jeez.
Well, and they'll grow gardens. I mean, they'll go and get whatever foliage they like in the woods that they're going to use, whether it's for medicinal to eat or whatever, and they will literally plant it. I mean, they do. And you find these patches of just like one thing in this cluster. But yeah, they definitely know how to make do, and they don't need to migrate. They may choose to leave if they're in an area that they just don't like, and they move just like we move, but they don't migrate.
Wow. Yeah, I've never really thought of that aspect, of them having to have a garden or store their food somehow, just like us, we just take it for granted, I guess. I never really applied that to them.
Yeah.
Northern places like in northern Michigan, northern Minnesota, and spots like that, they have to actually, of course, gather more any of the vegetable stuff they want to try and have over the course of the summer. They got to gather all that up. But really, hunting in the winter is easy all the animals can hardly run away from you because the snow is
Oh,
so deep.
Yeah.
And then when
Yeah.
you kill one, you can throw it in a snowbank, and it's still good for the next 4 months. It's not going to rot or anything. As a matter of fact, if you could massacre a whole bunch of deer all at once, you could pile them up, throw some snow over them where nobody knows that they're there, and you don't have to hunt for a month or two. You can avoid all that really cold weather and just come back and
Yeah.
pillage the deer carcass pile when you need more food.
They always
Wow.
help. I mean, I put a garden in I haven't done it the last 2 years, but 3 years ago I had a garden, and it was just a very small one. It wasn't anything major. I'm not a vegetable person where Pat could live on nothing but veggies. And so I planted some stuff for him, and I'd go out there, and they always left me some. But you would find these just humongous footprints in between the rows of the vegetables. And the first time they tried to clean off a bush of tomatoes, I was like, you guys, listen, I don't care if you take some, but leave me a few. And after that, it was about 50-50. They were pretty good with it. They used to do that with chickens. I had eons, like 20, 30 years ago, I had all these chickens. And I would go out to get the eggs, and I'm like, why are these hens just not laying eggs? And where you pulled the eggs out of was inside the barn. And then I would start seeing the muddy footprints going into the barn and then outside the barn. I'm thinking, okay. But then I was like, okay, you can have some, but I have to feed my kids too. And after that, every day, there were 6 eggs there for me. If there was whatever else was over that 6, never saw them again. But there was always 6.
Speaking
I
of
was
the
just going
chickens,
to ask you that story.
the chicken and Sasquatch thing, I got a piece of a whole bunch of different clips of video of Sasquatch doing various things. And I'm putting together for the intro on one of my shows. And one of them is 2 young Sasquatch stealing chickens. And you could see the one running off with a chicken in its hand. It's like super obvious.
Well, it's like the chicken ranches. You know, they get like 2,000 and 3,000 birds in there. That is a Sasquatch paradise because they aren't going to go out there every morning and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hold it, that one moved again.
Yep, now I don't know where we're at. And so they can go in there and take as many as they want. And there was this one place in Mayo, Michigan, and there was a chicken ranch up there. And they would take all the birds that died or whatever, and they'd walk back over behind the Michigan Museum. They had a small museum there that was back in the woods, and they would dump it back there. And the Sasquatch would just readily go up and take all whatever they dumped, you know. DNR would dump deer carcasses back there, whatever, and the Sasquatch would take them. But they go into, I don't care where you're at, any chicken house there is, you are their friend, man. If you don't have a lot of birds, they seem to leave them alone. But if you're talking hundreds and hundreds of birds, you're not going to notice if it's gone.
I haven't noticed any chickens gone, but I have noticed some eggs gone. And like you said, there's no eggs for a few days. And this was back when I really sensed they were in the barn last fall, you know, and I remember you telling me, well, make sure you're specific. So I would tell them, I said, I have to have just, you know, leave me 2. Well, then it was, 2 for a while. I said, that's all I really need. So, yeah, I got to make sure they don't take every single one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Generally, if you ask them, they're pretty good. Some of them get greedy, but, for the most part.
Some of them seem unsure about our ability to count. We had this comes up quite a bit. We had a package that had 4 pork steaks in it. So it's a flat package, and it's got the cellophane over the top of it. And they had gotten warm for too long, and they turned gray and went bad and smelled icky. So, of course, we're not going to eat them. So we had them laying in this plastic bag on the ground. It was going to be cold that night. We didn't expect any animals to be coming into camp because, mysteriously, they didn't mostly. And could have been in proximity to the Sasquatch around the area. But anyway, so the next morning I get up, and I'm going to jump in the vehicle and take off to town and haul the trash out from the campsite. And I go to pick up the bag that I've got on the ground, and I start to pick it up, and I realize it's way too light. And I'm like, wait, this is inside. There's a white plastic bag that I had wrapped underneath it, and it's still in the original packaging inside of that. So when I picked it up, it looked exactly like when I put it down, including how it was folded underneath. So I picked it up, and I pulled it out, and now there's a thin slit on the cellophane on the one side, and 2 of the 4 rotting pork steaks are gone.
Oh.
And whoever
Wow.
took them carefully put it back in the bag, folded the top over the bag to make it look just like when I left it there, so I wouldn't notice. And humans can't count, so as long as you only take two, they don't know that there's any missing.
I had somebody once tell me that the ones that they interacted with, they liked it better if the meat was rotted.
Yeah.
So you gotta try it. You gotta try it. I did that with mine, and they threw it up on my front porch.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
They're like, "Are you kidding me? You make us turkeys for Thanksgiving, and now you want us to eat rotted meat?"
Yeah, the point on this one is not only the humorous circumstances around it, but that the only thing other than a Sasquatch could have done that is a human. And what human is going to go to that trouble to steal 2 rotten pork steaks and then disguise their crime? So we'd never know it happened. I mean, seriously, there's only one option there. If it was any other wild animal, they just would have torn the plastic apart and ate all of it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Oh man, that's so funny.
Oh my goodness.
they would raid our coolers occasionally, but they never took much of anything.
Are they known to take alcohol from people, like beer or anything like
Oh,
that?
they're boozers. Are you kidding? They used to, not so much the ones in South Carolina, but when I was in Michigan, I'm not a drinker. It's nothing against it. I just don't like the taste of it. I mean, I don't care if anybody else has a drink. It's not something I enjoy. And they would literally, I was just on the outskirts of town. It was a very, very tiny town, and there was a pub in town. They would go down there and they would get all the alcohol bottles with a little bit of it left in there or whatever. My wood looked like I had a party for Guns N' Roses. It was unbelievable. There was bottles of booze everywhere. And I'm like, this is a non-alcoholic house. Like, I would go out there and it was just alcohol. And up by the house. It wasn't like, I lived on a private drive. So to begin with, nobody was going up and down the road. And then the woods off the front of my house was only like 25 feet from the front door. And that right at where the woods started, piles and piles of booze bottles. And I'm like, my God, how can you people walk, Igor and I put a beer out there one time to see what they do, and it had a twist top. And it wasn't a twist top. It was the kind you had to have the little thing to pop the beer cap off. And we put it in a bucket. And we went out there, and they had ripped the top right off of it. And it was on the ground, and they drank half of it, and then they put the beer back in the bucket. So apparently it wasn't their brand. But it was there. And we went in the house, and Igor said to me, he said, where was the cap? I said, well, the cap, they threw the cap on the ground. And he said, oh, we should have got the cap and hung on to it in case it had anything on it. So I went back out there, and that cap was gone and the bottle was gone. So we must have interrupted him when we walked out there, because it was all gone after that.
I bet it was Bud Light.
I know. I can't remember what kind it was.
Bud Light.
But I mean, they would really, and the ones in Russia, of course, most of your people in Russia drink heavily. They really do. I'm surprised that they have any livers, but they drink a lot. And the ones that Igor interacts with, that's all they want them. They're always asking them for liquor. They want booze all the time.
I would have never thought they would have been in the alcohol. Of course, I don't know if I'd want a bunch of Sasquatches running around all drunk around my property.
Well, see, that was me. It's like I'd find all these empty booze bottles that I'm sure they were taken from the dumpster at the bar up in town. And I'm thinking that's all I need is, 20 of these 1,000-pound guys on a bender. Talk about a frat house.
That'd be almost as bad as Guns N' Roses.
I know. It's like, no wonder it was so loud out in my woods at night.
You'll have to add that to your DoorDash, Duke.
Yeah. And really.
Nope.
Now, I haven't found booze bottles here. I get a lot of pop bottles that they bring up, and it's not the kind of pop that I drink. And I find those out in my backyard all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know where you're getting it from, but I don't drink this, but okay.
Yeah, I would never, ever give them any kind of booze. First of all, it's kind of pointless because they're so huge, they'd have to drink a keg each in order to even get a buzz. And secondly, it's not good for them, so why?
It's not. And it's like, watch how much candy you give them. People are like, oh, they like Snickers bar. Of course they like Snickers bar. Everybody likes Snickers bar.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. If not, we have other issues to discuss. But at the same time, there's no dentists where they are at. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them actually will die from getting tooth infections and abscesses in their mouth.
Okay.
That gets in their bloodstream. It can kill them. So, when you're going to put food and treats and stuff out, you've got to be really careful with what you do. A candy bar now and then isn't going to hurt them. But if that's a staple that you're going to give them every single time, be mindful of the fact that, there are no dentists out there and tooth decay is a real thing.
Yeah, and there's kinds of fruit that they like, any kind of sweet fruits, grapes, whatever.
Exactly.
They'll eat all that kind of stuff. And you can feed them, like trail mix.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's all. Anything that they can't naturally get in their environment easily, especially if it's sweet, it's on the yum yum list. That's one of the reasons peanut butter is so popular. Because, where do you get peanut butter in nature? Well, you can't.
Right.
Exactly.
Plus, it's sweet, too.
Yeah, and we really don't know. Yeah, they like that. And we really don't know what antibiotics are safe for them. Like, we had a female years ago that had an abscess with a tooth, and she was in a lot of pain. And it didn't matter what, we tried to give her that was like an herbal remedy. Nothing was cutting it. And I mean, she was miserable. She would be outside and she would moan all night.
Aww.
Finally, I would go and I would put amoxicillin out, and you can do it two ways. You can break open the capsule and put it over a food that they like, because if you just give it to them in a pill and they go to taste it, nobody's going to take it. And I did that, and she finally was better. It helped.
Good.
But again, we don't have any way of knowing what their systems can handle. It's really risky. I don't do that unless it's an absolute emergency. Like, if I'm going to give them medication, it's going to be homeopathic medication.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what their systems can handle. We don't know what they can't handle.
And they don't have dogman dentists that can, like, flying drop kick the bad tooth out of the side of their mouth or something.
I'm telling you.
Now, you've mentioned that before about them asking you for medical attention and stuff. Is there other stuff that we can help them with? Just like that?
They taught me how to do healing work with energy. So, I do a lot of healing work on them. But, yeah, if you've got a clan that you're interacting with and stuff, do your homework. Google is your friend. Learn, what things that are accessible out in the woods will help them for various things. Like when COVID hit, the very first thing I did when COVID hit, because they can get COVID due to the human part of them, is, okay, what's out there that will help them? Squash will help them because of the vitamins in the squash. And I can't remember what vitamin it is that they have, but that was helpful with COVID. Pine needle tea is extremely good for people with COVID, and it's very accessible for them. And they know how to make fire. They know how to heat. There's certain clans that prefer their food cooked. Others don't. I always compare that to like the Amish, because, they don't use modern conveniences, and a lot of these guys don't. So there are things out there when they ask for medications that you can look for. And if it's not out in the woods, but it's something that's homeopathic that you can get for them for various illnesses, by all means, try it. But we don't know. It's really scary. Like I said, I've only done that 1 or 2 times where I've given them, and it's always been amoxicillin, because it's not really, amoxicillin really isn't all that strong opposed to some of your stronger antibiotics. But I try not to do, that's a very, very last thing for me normally, because they taught me how to heal with energy. I can get, stuff out of their lungs. Now that summer is here, they like those little things that look like little red crab apples, but they're not crab apples. And the little ones that constantly get them stuck in their throat, and you can maneuver things with energy to get it out. Like I said, I do most of the healing that I do, and they contact me a lot for healing things. Healing on them and blessing clear the land and bless it, or bless graves, or that kind of thing.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. Well, I was going to let the chat know that if anyone has any questions for Duke and Robin, put them in capitals, and we will try to get to them and pull them up on the screen and see if they can answer them for you.
Yeah, I haven't really felt them talking to me, either that or I just don't have the ability, or I haven't developed it yet. They must be pretty self-sufficient around us, or they just know that we're stupid.
Subtle. No, I think they try to talk to everybody, but It's really subtle. It's hard. It's really hard. Like, it's so easy to miss when they do it. It can be any thought, feeling, emotion, picture in your head, random
Yeah.
thought, a letter, a word, anything that is not your, and you kind of scratching your head like, why? Why did that come from? Why did I just think about this? You know?
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, mostly I can just feel their presence and I can feel them watching me.
Yeah. So you're picking up on their energy.
Yeah. Well, I don't see
I don't see any questions
don't
yet.
see any questions yet.
Everybody's sick of us already.
What?
Now their
What's
heads have
that?
exploded. Now they're all trying to recover.
Did it?
I think so.
Okay.
Maggie, yeah, they're pretty much the same as the Sasquatch are up here.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do it by hand.
Yeah, but then it's gonna wiggle.
The clacking rocks,
Okay.
the young ones will do it as well as the adults. It's not just a young or old type thing. And not only can they clack with rocks, they can take their hands on their cheeks and hit it, and it sounds exactly like a rock clack.
Wow.
We've had other witnesses seen them make wood knocks with things other than wood. One of them witnessed one actually kick the base of a tree, made a wood knock sound. Another
Yeah.
witnessed one slapping a tree, which made a wood knock sound.
Yeah, you'd be amazed the noises that they can make just with their mouth and their hands.
Well, just the noises that I'm hearing. My next door neighbor, she's got 2 giant pine trees, and then the neighbor next to her also has 2 giant pine trees. And last summer, a couple times, like I explained, I was hearing like a old barn hinge, and you can just tell, these wooden old barn hinges just have a distinguished sound. And if it was something that was open, she has nothing. There's no shed, there's no barn, and if it was something that was back there, I'd hear it all the time. And Duke was talking about branches rubbing back and forth, and I know what he's talking about. That's a certain sound also, but yeah, just the squeaking. And then you mentioned that they kind of giggled and said, "Yeah, they like squeaking at me." So I'm looking forward to going out there.
Yeah, I don't know what it was before I got on this show. I mean, I've never heard it before. It literally sounded like telephone poles being whacked together. It was that big of a sound.
Wow.
And that deep of a sound. It was really odd. And it was only coming from my bushes. So because we have these bushes and pine trees that go down the property line. So I walked over on the other side to see if any of my neighbors were out or anything. There was nobody there, and it was coming only from inside my bushes. But we've had, for whatever reason, one night, Janice Carter was here, and there was like music coming out of my bushes. It was like an old revival music, and it was loud enough where my next door neighbor came out, and she's like, "What? Are you guys got a party going on?" And I'm like, "No, like there's no power out there. There's nothing. I don't know where this is coming from."
I think maybe they would have opened up. It's possible they opened up a portal between there and the revival meeting where the Cookie Monster stole all the cookies and then made his getaway, coming through there, getting out the back of your property.
Idea. Yeah, do you know Janice and I actually got in a car, and like I said, I'm out in the middle of the woods. And there's we have a house on either side of us, but it's a lot to be able to drive around the block. Like, that's not like a little tiny deal. You have to drive all over to drive around. And town is 7 to 10 miles away. And we drove all over for over an hour and couldn't find that music, and came home and the thing was still going on in my bushes. And my neighbors are out there. My neighbors are out there staring at these bushes, and they're really thick. You can't see in it. And at that time, the forest people had made tunnels through them, because one of the younger ones, his name is Zerky, and Zerky would run up and down there. He's now gotten too big, because when he tried to climb up all the trees, he broke them all down into the middle of my yard. So now he hangs out in my big, huge tree in the front yard. But you couldn't see into it, but you could hear the music. I mean, it was crazy. My neighbors are out going, "Robin, what do you got going on in your bushes?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Well,
we thought maybe
Maggie,
it was coming from town, and it wasn't.
Wow. Now, Maggie wants to know if the same principles loosely apply to Yowies in Australia.
Yes.
What we found is, regardless of what country, what state, where there may be some slight variations, predominantly it's the same thing. You know, Igor does all that research in Russia, and he notices the same thing in Russia that's going on here. I've worked with some people in Australia. They've noticed the same thing that goes on here. I worked with people in the UK, same experience.
They would make the same structures. I was contacted by someone that's, was, hey, Duke, how do I find structures? And I said, well, you go to a wilderness area, get about 50 yards off any main thoroughfare trails, and just kind of walk around and see if you can spot anything. So he gets a hold of me about 4 or 5 days later and sends me pictures of what look like tree structures. And like, how'd you find these? And he goes, I did just what you said. And I went out to this one area where there's this big chunk of woods, and there's only kind of one trail through it. And when I got way out there, I started walking a ways off the trail, and I started spotting them. And I said, well, see, next time you go back, try and get a little bit further out there and see if you can find some more. So sure enough, about 2 weeks later, he was back there with his son. He sent me pictures, and sure enough, he had found more what obviously looked like tree structures. And he was just blown away by it. He's like, but they're not supposed to be in my country. Oh, this is in the Silver Broom Mountains in Ireland.
Oh.
Oh, they have them in Ireland.
Yeah, see, that's my point. They're everywhere. People just don't necessarily recognize that they are.
Yeah.
And it's really old hat news in Europe. I mean, Bigfoot in Germany, Robert Boston, got a great picture from a town near where he was staying over there in Germany, where they've got a central water fountain, and the big statue in the middle of the water fountain is a Bigfoot. It's Der Wildermann. I mean...
There you go. Now, Val wants to know if you think that the clacking rocks she heard last fall is possibly a young Bigfoot.
Yep, I already answered. I read it on chat.
Oh, okay.
It's possible, but it's not like the young ones aren't the only ones that do the rock clacking. It's not an age-specific thing. All of them will do it. Is it possible it was a young one? Of course it is, because they all do it. But they can also make a rock clacking with rocks. They can make it with their mouth. They can take their hands and cup it in such a manner. It sounds exactly like rock clacking. But yeah, all age groups will do it. So is it possible that particular one was young? Yeah.
There's another thing too. If we assume this is some really ancient relic hominoid, that they're all similar and they do things similarly. How do you explain some of these places on Earth where really they shouldn't be able to be? They haven't got like ocean liners to get there, right? How do they end up being there? Places like Australia is one good example.
Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, Hawaii. Yeah, I'm still out on that one. I haven't seen any good evidence for it. Hawaii's got Menehune for sure, but any of these places on Earth, they seem to be there, and they have sort of the same patterns of behavior with minor variations depending on the climate and the makeup of the woods that they're in. But other than that, like for example, wood structures, tree structures, that sort of thing, it's very homogeneous. All over the world, they make some of the same structures. And how do you account for that? Even assuming they started out everywhere and then big areas got flooded so they couldn't get across anymore. After that long of a period of time, things would have changed by now anyway.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, we got Susie B.
Maggie, I can answer that question. I don't know. Actually, when I had William Lunsford and Eric Adventureman up here, we assumed that it was because we were spending too much time in camp and not enough walking around the woods, oohing and awing over their awesome structures. But they pushed 2 trees down. One was right about 10:30 in the morning, and it was within 100 yards of camp. And then we went for a little ride down the valley and came back again and had lunch. And about 2:30, they shoved another one over. Again, about less than 100 yards away from camp. That's the only time I've had them do that ever. So.
Now, Robert, I don't know if you want to answer Susie B, if you want to contact her personally, or how you want to handle this.
Susie, they keep telling me something about 3, so I don't know if it's within 3 miles or what, but get hold of me. If you're on Facebook, I'm under Robin Haynes McCray, Haynes. If you go to plain Robin McCray, you'll never get me. It's an old account that I can't even get into if I wanted to. So it's under Robin Haynes McCray, and I'm more than happy to work with you on that. But yeah, I can.
And then Val's kind of asking the same kind of thing about heavy footfall. That's why I thought young one. I don't know
Well,
if that was an answer from the.
it's possible it was a young one, but you also have to understand that they levitate. So that again, kind of gives them a little more edge, which not like they didn't have enough edge on us to begin with. And they have a way of moving and almost like they glide where some of them don't sound like there's a heavy footstep. I mean, if they're relaxed and there's kind of sauntering through, maybe so. Shireen, it's very possible. You can't rule it out. I used to go and check on the ground outside of my house every night before I went to bed to go see where every rock, stick, branch, everything was on the ground. And the next morning, everything would be moved. Yeah, they can absolutely. They cloak as well as shimmer. They do it by raising their frequency, vibration, and energy. The shimmer is what looks like predator, where it's like that gelled water thing. And when they do the cloak, they can be right there, and you absolutely will not be able to see them because they are 100% gone.
Isn't that
unless they move, then you could see a little bit of a distortion. Sonny got a picture of one right behind her reaching out trying to touch her, and you can see it bending the light around it.
Yeah, that's more of a shimmer.
Oh,
yeah, I've had
to catch them. Didn't
what?
Dr. Ketchum say? Yeah, didn't Dr. Ketchum say either on your show or Spaced Out Radio that she just sees them vanish right in front of her?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. In Michigan in the wintertime, they'll be walking next to me and I'll watch footprints being made in the snow and there's absolutely nothing there. Nothing. Not a shimmer, not a gel, just absolutely nothing. My next door neighbor was out dumping brush in the back of their yard.
Yeah, there's another one.
And one was standing there and first time he'd ever seen one and it startled him and he said it was there and then it just wasn't there anymore. And I said, when it took off, did it drop down to all fours? Did it run through the woods? Which way did it go? He said, that's the thing. He said, there was so much brush, it should have made a leaf move or a branch move or something or a noise. There wasn't. He said it was there and then it wasn't there anymore. And I said, that's because it's cloaked. And when they completely cloak, when there's a complete cloak, there's nothing there.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I have.
Have you heard
I have too.
Oh, you've heard her speak out loud. Wow.
Yeah, I heard one speak in what is in practical terms actually pretty excellent English, but he's been hanging around to the same family for 3 generations.
Oh, wow.
So his English is good, but they have that deep, gravelly voice, and he speaks so fast, you almost have to stop after every sentence and go, what did you just say? Think about it for a second.
Yeah,
not because he can't speak it good, but because he's speaking it so fast, we're not used to actually taking in the information at that speed.
Yeah, I was going to ask if they speak in English or do families and clans from all over have their own languages, kind of like what we do in different countries?
Yes.
Yeah, they have their own language, but they can speak whatever language they're around. Like the ones in Russia, when I went to the scientific conference and Russians spoke, they would try to speak to me in Russian. I can't speak Russian. Igor tried for years. I'm incapable of it. So I would have to tell them if they wanted me to understand them, they had to speak in my language, and they could switch it down and they could speak in English. So, I mean, they can speak English. They do have their own language.
Wow. That's very interesting.
Yep, and I've got a smattering of words from 2 of their different dialects, one from near me and one from down in the Gulf Coast, and they seem to get what the words mean, like, you ran into somebody that said Auf Wiedersehen or Bonjour, you'd know they were saying hello. You'd just be like, okay, I don't really speak that language, but that's a human language, and they're saying hello. So
right.
Points for them. They're not speaking Martian or something.
And somebody had asked about the white Sasquatch. A white Sasquatch does not mean they're an albino. An albino has, the pinkish skin and the red eyes. A lot of Sasquatch are just simply white in color. Just like you have a black one or a brown one or a red one, some are just white. I have one very close to me that's just white, but he has Caucasian skin.
Yeah, also just like humans, as they age, they can change color hair-wise.
Yep,
so if they get really old, they'll have the gray or white hair, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But some are just born white-haired. They have different color skin tone underneath. It can be a dark, a Caucasian or whatever, but they have white hair.
Now, Maggie wants to know if pushing over trees is an act of aggression, dominance, or what could that be?
Or moving us out of their
I think
area.
I think a lot of time it's intended to be that way. At least let you know that something's there and maybe scare you, gauge your reaction, see how you react to it. You know, and that's why I brought up the situation earlier where we had two incidents of that in one day, whereas before and since that's never happened in my research area. So did I take it as an act of aggression? No. It just seemed like an act of frustration. Hey, dumb humans, quit hanging around camp. You're supposed to be out here following us around, telling us how cool our structures are.
Yeah, I had one that years ago. His was more playful. It wasn't aggression. We had a 10-acre property, and every day I would walk around the whole outside ring of the property, and I would talk to them, and they would follow me around out there. And I went around the first time, and I went around the second time, and they had knocked over a tree right across the path that I walked on. And I said, "Yeah, you're funny. This is me ignoring you. Ha, ha, ha." And I walked around and kept right on walking, and all I could hear was laughter.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, absolutely they can do it to show aggression or a dominant type thing, but they can play around with it too.
But at some time and point, they've probably done stuff to keep you out of harm's way too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, if they don't, if they think that you're in danger, they'll knock stuff down. They'll do whatever they have to do to get your attention.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes when they're being aggressive, it could just be that there's something else out there that they don't want you to run into. Or part of the group is busy hunting something over there. Stay the hell out until we catch it, dumb humans. We're getting lunch
or
right
their
now.
kids are there. They don't want you by their
Or the
kids.
kids are there, exactly. Another great example.
Yeah, there's always multiple reasons for everything.
Peculiarly enough, in my area, for some reason, the kids really like me, and the adults actually let them follow me around. So that's why I ended up giving them stuffed toys, because I felt like, well, these guys really like me. I'm gonna be a good Santa Claus and bring them presents.
Uh,
But yeah, I actually end up getting the little ones on camera more often than the adults. And I think the adults are letting them practice sneaking around because they know I'm completely harmless and nothing's going to happen to them. And they let them get as close as they want. I mean, we got that one on video where I'm trying to line up a comparison shot from a video I'd gotten previously where there was two of them in the background. Robin spotted one of them, Christy spotted the other one. And I wanted to just get in the same place, same time of day, same light conditions, and film from the same spot and see if those objects were there. Well, they weren't. But while I was lining up for the shot, there was this whole pile of deadfall that came together like this. And I remembered I was standing right where those pieces came together. So I could exactly gauge where I was standing to do the comparison. So as I'm walking up on it, I've already got the camera going. And as I turn around to the camera to film, guess what? There's a little bitty juvenile underneath that wood pile, and you can see his face, and he's reaching up like this to count coup on me as soon as I turn around.
Oh man.
Yeah, Duke was Santa Claus this year.
Yeah.
Yep. Left
Gave
them all
them
kinds of
stuffed
goodies.
animals.
They always know when the food's from me because I take the big peanut butter jars and I unscrew the lid and I pull the liner out and I cram the lid full of bacon and I just set it down like that.
Bacon and peanut butter.
Yep, I know they like it.
Wow. You should make him some Elvis sandwiches, peanut butter and bananas, and
There you go.
I should make squash snack sticks and market them to the humans. Just
squash
strips
snack
of
sticks.
strips of bacon covered with peanut butter and chocolate.
That's some pretty good DoorDash service.
Squash snack sticks.
There you go. You could probably patent that and start putting that out there.
Hell yeah!
I say give them cat food. They go crazy over this stupid cat food.
Oh.
Depending what brand I buy. Like they go out in my cat pens and all the food buckets are inside the houses so the rain doesn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And pine cones won't fit through the fencing and they just don't. And I'll go in there and feed them and I keep these giant buckets in their houses and they'll last for 2 or 3 days with those buckets. And every time I go out there, the cats act like they're starving the next morning. I'll go in there, every bucket is empty and it's filled with pine cones.
Filled with pine cones.
I'm like,
Robin's
okay.
got a security cam picture from out in the front of her house, of her front porch where the cat food dish is, and there's a young Sasquatch crouched over, gobbling all the cat food as fast as he can get it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, so
I
Maggie's
don't
asking
necessarily
about
know.
crystals.
Yeah, I'm not the best crystal person at all, but I mean, I know basic stuff, but not a lot. I don't know that will actually help. I mean, depending on what you're carrying, I know some people will carry tourmaline out there to use, and they say that that's helpful. Whether it is, I don't know. Be careful what you leave crystallized for gifts, because you do not want them to use them for something they shouldn't, I guess is the best way to put it, because they use crystals for various things and to heighten different abilities, and you don't want to leave them a crystal. Like, rose quartz, something nice and soft and loving like that, that would be great. But be really careful with some of your other things.
Yeah, no Aztec doomsday crystals or anything like that they can employ improperly.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know. But like, there are people that carry tourmaline around because tourmaline is a protectant.
Yeah.
And they claim that it is very helpful for them. I've not tried it, so I can't, say yes or no. Yeah, they do. They think the pine cones is payment for the cat food. I tried to, when I went up to the store to buy more cat food, I did try to exchange the pine cones. It didn't go well.
Yes, they do not have the concept of money.
Brands. Yeah, it's only certain brands. They like Purina Daily Care. If I go to a different brand, they don't touch it. I put Purina Daily Care out there. Oh, yeah, they go crazy over that stuff.
Wow.
Wow. What about dog food? It's just cat food.
Do you know what? They used to steal, they are known to steal dog food, and they have stolen dog food from us before. When I put stuff out, I try not to do a lot of dog food because there's really not a lot of nutritional stuff in it. But yeah, they like dog food. They'll take it. They used to take all my dog's food every time they could, until I finally would say to them, I don't care if we share, but leave some for the dog, Oh no. I bet you that would make him happy.
Nope.
They probably revolt. Get that hot stuff in their mouth.
They have a fit. I get that thrown at my house so fast.
That's a good one, Monster Radio. I like that one.
That is cute.
Refer to episodes of Messing with Sasquatch for the likely results of that activity.
What can you
There's
think
a
of?
guy that used to get pizza boxes. You know how the cheese sticks on the boxes? And he put the pizza boxes out there, and they would take it off of it. They would go and get pizza boxes out of my trash and pull the cheese pieces off of it.
They must like mozzarella and stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Big protein source. Got to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
I got to take a break for a second here and run to the Biffy, and then I shall return.
Well, we've got your show coming up, too.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know how soon you needed to leave for your show, or if you wanted to tell us, you guys' information, how people can contact you, or what they need to look forward to. Or...
Yeah. For myself, you can find me, if you're on Facebook, under Robin Haynes, Haynes McCray, MCCRAY. If you need to email me, it's at RLYNNE and then a period. And then Forest, FOREST, only one R, people, PEOPLE @gmail.com.
All right.
And Duke is on MeWe. If anybody needs to reach him, you can find him on MeWe. His Facebook group, I take care of it, as well as some other admins. And it's the Montana Bigfoot Project. And you're welcome to go on there and leave me a message, or find me on either email or Facebook, and you can, I can get it over to him. And I don't want to put his email out there. I'll let him do that, just because it's not right if I do it. But yeah, you're welcome to get hold of either one of us at any time.
Okay. No, everyone can find him on World Bigfoot Radio, and
and we will be there in about 25 minutes.
Yeah, 25 minutes. Yeah, the chat's probably already over there, and I would love to have every single person in the chat.
They usually they get there early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, MeWe is Val. MeWe is it's just another social platform. It's not quite as busy as Facebook, but people seem to like it. And so Duke's over there. I haven't seen it yet. I did see that it was up, Gene. I have a lot of faith in MK. So I'm anxious. I've got the link for it. I haven't had time yet to take a look at it, but I'm going to.
And I'm really hoping everyone in chat, when we end here in a few minutes, that everyone head over to World Bigfoot Radio and watch Duke's show, and Robin and Duke will be in chat, and hopefully all of us will be over there.
Yeah, anybody has any questions, you can hit us up over there as well. He's gonna, like I said, he's got oh, thank you, Maggie. That's so thoughtful. I appreciate it. Yeah, he's gonna start doing every week. He'll do somebody from the conference. The hall we had this year was absolutely fantastic as far as size for us to organize vendor tables around it. What the problem we had was their PA system. They have speakers that are up high. They didn't have them turned on for us, so we had to deal with just the low ones. So when you have anything coming out of a sound system in a really wide and tall area, it dissipates the sound. So it was really hard when they recorded it to hear. And so Duke is doing his little magical things that he does so well and enhancing the vocals on it so we can hear it better. Now, next year, we are going to be over at Fauner Park, which is the biggest venue in the entire state of Nebraska. And it's composed of several different buildings in there. And one of the buildings that we have a much better sound system. It's going to be set up nicely, lower ceilings so that we don't lose a lot of our sound, as well as not only the screens, we have flat screen TVs that are going to go around it. So you can see things on that as well. So, and we're really excited. We're really excited. We were asked to partner with I think it's the tourism board or something over there, and they've got a Comic-Con that will be going on at the same time. And so, you know, it'll be a lot of fun. We're really excited. It'll be in Grand Island next year instead of Hastings, which is where we primarily have always had it. So it's a step for us to go into a bigger town.
Well,
and one of the people that
I
was going to put in a quick plug, one of the people that's going to be speaking there next year is my guest next week, Robert Kreider from Kreider Expeditions, who's not only the real world Indiana Jones, but also a pretty damn good Bigfoot researcher.
Oh, he's wonderful. Yeah, well, it's Sabilla Irwin there. Blaine Tyler's going to be back next year.
Codename Canadian Bacon.
Yeah, we have a friend of Harriet McFeely's. His name is Paco and Elizondo. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm so sorry. But he's got great activity in Colorado, so we're thankful that he's going to be there. We've got a lot of good people coming next year.
Awesome. Do you guys have a date set for it?
Yeah, it will be, I think it's the 26th. I'll look, but I think it's the 26th and 27th next year. Yeah, 26th and 27th of April.
All right.
Cool.
I think we're telling everybody to go check out your show when we get done ending this. Is there any you want?
Yeah, just a reminder there. We're going to be seeing Blaine Tyler's first presentation ever at a Bigfoot conference inside the U.S. And Keith Crabtree, notwithstanding the fact it's been over 50 years since he was the Boggy Creek Monster in The Legend of Boggy Creek, will also be making his first ever presentation on a stage at a Bigfoot conference. Both of those amazing guests on the same show tonight in part one of the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference 2023 presentation series. So what do we got tonight? Canadian Bacon and the Falk Monster. You don't want to miss it. And then tomorrow night, these two are going to be on Tom Cardo's show, North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. And I already talked to Tom about it. And right after that show, it's an hour long. So right after that show, in my usual time slot, I will again have a show on. And tomorrow night, it will be William Lunsford and Stephen Hill's presentation from the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference. So woohoo, you get two of them.
Awesome.
Now, what time is the Tom Cardo show?
Pretty sure it's 7, isn't it? 7
So it would be
Central?
8 East. Okay, so it's 8 East. Okay. That I will be there to watch.
Yep, and I already told him that I'm going to air my show right after his, so don't go 5 minutes over or something.
Yeah, and I have a commitment at 9 o'clock, so I just want to make sure I can be there for it. I'm tied up after 9.
Do you have any future conferences coming up?
I have one in Tennessee, North Carolina Bigfoot Conference. It will be, I believe it's the 17th. Let me check dates. of June. And after that, I'm going to be exhausted. The 17th of June. And that
Okay.
will be over, I think it's Burnsville. It's right by Asheville. If you go on my Facebook page, you'll see it because I've got it put it up on there. But it's June 17th. It'll be our first time over in that particular area. We've done Tennessee before. It's with Dr. John Stamey. I do the Georgia Bigfoot Conference with him, and we had a huge turnout for that. So we had done one before in Tennessee, but this is a different location for us in Tennessee. So we're excited.
Don't you have
Dick,
one
you
coming up in the
want-
Carolinas in the next couple days or something, or next couple weeks?
No, he's going to do, no, thank goodness I don't, too much stuff going on. But he is going to do one in South Carolina. He's looking at dates and what days he wants to do it. But they're going to do one in South Carolina, yeah. Which will be really nice because I don't have to travel anywhere.
Duke, you want to say your contact information if anybody wants to get a hold of you out or before we leave?
World Bigfoot Central at yahoo.com.
Yep, and mine is rlynne.forest, forestpeople @gmail.com.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys coming on. This has been a fun
Yeah,
evening.
thank you so much.
Right on. Yeah, I had fun too. I'm looking forward to watching your show with Tom Cardos tomorrow night.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Thank
Right
you.
before we release part 2 of the presentations. And after this, the only 2 that are left is Robin's presentation and my presentation, which hopefully
Yeah.
I can have out later on this week as well.
That'd
Yeah.
be great.
And you will have so much fun with Tom. Tom is an awesome host.
Yeah, we watch
he's
this show
great.
too. We can't wait to be on there.
Yeah, I've watched this show for so long. I love this show.
Yeah,
He's
a
so
good
awesome.
guy.
He's even been on my show. That's how awesome he is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, there you go.
Oh.
I don't.
Are we going to be awesome enough to be on Duke's show?
I don't know. I don't think we have anything to add to this show. I don't know.
You got
It's laughing at us.
you got to be awesome to be on this show.
Yeah, there's a certain threshold of awesomeness that you have to cross in order to actually be invited on the show.
And yet I'm still on it. Go figure.
We'll show up and chat anyway.
Yeah. Hey, the only reason I even get to be on the show is because I'm the host. Other than that, I wouldn't be allowed on.
Okay, everybody. We'll meet you over in chat.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Bye.
joining us, you two.
Oh,
we'll
thank
see you
so
in
much
chat.
for having me.
Don't
Take
hug the
care.
Wookiees.
Bye.
Don't
Yeah,
hug the
don't
one.
hug the Wookiees.
Don't hug the Wookiees.
Don't hug the Wookiees. Yes, everyone, please go over to World Bigfoot Radio and watch Duke's show that's starting at 8 o'clock Central, just in a few minutes, and we can head over to chat. Everyone's already in there talking to each other. And I just want to thank you for joining us. I knew these two would be so funny.
Yep. Please like, share, and subscribe, and do that. Show the love to
Yep.
World Bigfoot Radio, and go over to their sites and share and heart everything that they have, and please get this out and let all your friends and everybody know, and we'll see you next time. We'll be in chat and Dukes in just a little
Yeah.
bit.
All right.
Night.
Good night.